have Jason Flores of Optometric.
So it's a little bit kind of backwards. So I've got the Fontana Optometric Group, it's in Fontana.
Right.
And then the Optometric Group of Upland here, because the Upland Optometric Group was taken. Or Upland Optometry was taken, and so it's so close to that we couldn't. So laws and stuff don't allow us to use that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get it right in the show notes.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to have you on the show. It's episode 3, and we've talked a little bit about marketing and communicating with patients and just strategies and how you've seen it most effective in your business. And I was very impressed with what you do and how you do things, because I think a lot of medical groups in general don't communicate to their patients at all.
Yeah.
And the other end of the extreme is some people talk to their patients or at their patients too much.
Yeah, we see that too.
And I see that you do a very, very nice blend of.
Yeah, we try. I come from a practice that has a long background of very custom patient care, quality patient care. Our practice in Fontana has been around since 1948. It's had 5 owners. I'm the 5th owner. We currently have 3 partners that run it at this time. We recently have moved here to Upland 2 years ago. We transitioned about 6 months before the changeover to make sure it was a good fit for us, but it was a big jump. Not so much that it was a complete new world for us, but to take a second practice for an optometric group was something that not a lot of optometrists do. The law, as of, I would say 2 years ago, only allowed actually a single optometrist to own 2 offices by law. So you couldn't have, essentially it was to make it so that you couldn't have a commercialized practice. For example, like a Walmart or like a Target. Like you'd have 10 and there's only one doctor, but you'd never see that doctor, right? They would just run it and you just see people working at these places, which is more of a commercial model, right? You may not see the same doctor at a Walmart, but at a private practice, you should. The idea was you'd get this level of care where you'd have the doctor that you have, and it would be one of those 2. It would be how the law would put it. So I guess going back to it, there was a long foundation of this connection with patients, all the way back to, let's say, pre-2008, where there was a big push to see more patients because they weren't coming in, we weren't getting paid. The owners of the current practice were still giving an ample amount of time to be able to spend with their patients. Big 30-minute slots, a lot of care, a lot of time taken to spend time and get to know these patients because they knew investing in that time would make, pay forward. And these patients are back year after year. They maybe move to another state and they're back. And so these are the connections that we look to make, whether it's they come into our office or we have an interaction with them in the community, or we're reaching out to them via text or email. We try to make that a conscious effort that it feels like it's us versus just this automated robo information connection. So,
what are some strategies that you've kind of implemented to make it personalized?
So a lot of times you'll have your normal things like birthdays and stuff like that, but we do throw a lot of events like open house, patient appreciation, and we write those emails. The doctors, our office manager is great. She runs both Fontana and Upland. She'll put those together to be able to put some verbiage there. It's very short, it's very quick. It's not too flashy, but it's just something simple that lets you know, hey, this is what we're doing for you. Come on in. It doesn't look like or feel like hey, Mr. This come on in on this date, that sort of thing. But as we move forward in technology and communication, we find that we need to adapt. There was a time where we would send postcards, and the office that we acquired here was written postcards and letters and check only and cash, and there's a lot of changes that we had to make and kind of cultural things. But as we kind of learned those patients, we've adjusted and brought them up to a culture that allowed them to really appreciate the connections that we're making, and those connections via text, and the phone calls don't all have to be made. Nobody's answering their phones these days. So really it's how do you connect with these patients, and it may be a text, it may be an email, and it may be just to know on the chart that they just come every year. I had 2 patients that I've seen 3 years in a row. They never confirm, but they just come back every year. So my staff goes, they will not return your calls, but they're coming. One of those things. And that's just kind of the history of where we're at. And it's just taking an introspective look of your patients, not just seeing it it as, patient dollar, and understanding the community. I spend a lot of time, we spend a lot of time in the community, understanding the small businesses, spending the time with the people out and doing events to see like what people are into. So when people talk about stuff, be like, oh, this is happening. Like, oh, last Sunday there was this event, that there's a parade down on 2nd Street, that we know about that and people know about. And I think those are the connections that we make, because each of the doctors do something like that, whether it be Key Club, whether it be, Rotary. We do each of those in our cities, so that way we cover that. So these connections are ones maybe people think like, oh, I don't have time for that. But then the thing about it is do we have time to make those connections so that those patients feel connected when they come here? I think that's the biggest thing that I feel like we've learned from the owners and before us. Yeah.
So many things to ask.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a lot.
No, I love it. First, is there a software or system that you have in place that allows you to do this? And what is it, if you can?
Yeah. I'm a big systems person, especially with the size of our practice and kind of just the way I think. I'm a big systems person. So we utilize 2 different things. So we've got our practice management software, which holds all our database of, think of it like a database of patients, right? Excel, that's our Access database. So that's the hub. Then we have a company called Solutions Reach. Demand Force would be something similar, but essentially it's what connects our patients to be able to communicate out to them. Whether it be text, email, phone calls, all that information is relayed to there. They can then correspond to Solutions Reach, and it will update our practice management. I send, hey, you have an appointment today. It can be a simple text, a couple of reminders. It's kind of like almost a bot kind of forward. And then you'd be able to answer yes, yes, no, and it will update kind of that way. The second part of it is via our website and emails, and we use a group called iNexus, and they handle all of our kind of web creation stuff. And so I come up with an idea, a blog post. They also help us with blog posts, as well as media and things like that. And that gets updated between there and then branched off to like Instagram and different other social media, Facebook and that sort of thing. So that gets branched out there. So the idea is from us, it goes to them. I say, send them, support request. They update the things, and then it gets updated on there. Wow. So I think having those systems in place are important, Yeah.
How long did it take to set all, because it's 3 systems, it's a marketing, it's the actual communication, how it's being sent out, and then the database.
Yeah. It's a funny thing because you can easily get jump started on any of these systems and maybe use 5% of it. A lot of people do that, right? You get a program, it may be any kind of program. It could be like an editing program, like that we were just talking about, but to use more of it or to use it completely and get your money's worth out of it, it takes time. Yeah. And that's one thing that having our 3 partners affords us as well. I've got a partner that's really great at financials. He makes sure we're on the dot every month, every week, I've got one he's been around, he's our most senior partner. He's connected all over the city, everywhere. And he makes sure that we're not making mistakes that we had from generations before us. And then as I came in, I'm the systems, I do all the training for the staff and make sure that we can train new staff as they come on board. So I'm the systems guy. And so as I came in, they had these systems in. The website was okay, it was running. SEO might not have been great, but really asking the right questions is important to these groups, because you could do a template, great. But I'm like, no, I want to make sure that it's connected to our health grade websites. I need to make sure that every time anyone searches me, that it connects to there and it connects to our site. And so that it doesn't be like, oh, I worked here in 2004 and it says I still work in this other city. All my doctors need to say that it says that I work here and only here right now, or wherever else they do work. We have associates as well. Right. And so they may work other places, but we connect them. And I think, and that's important. And then, I guess in that same circle would be like the Yelp and Google, right? The reviews on this end. And then, so
citations, they're called.
Yeah. Okay. So citations. And then, so working, whether we like it or not, working with a group like Yelp, but luckily the iNexus group does help with it. I've been focusing a lot on Google. And the reason why is because I recently found out, maybe a year or so ago, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you're obviously in this space, that only here in California do like doctors get reviewed where food gets reviewed on Yelp. Where in other states, where I have colleagues, let's say in Indiana, where I went to school, everyone goes to Google and that's where the reviews are. Yelp is strictly just for food places, but people go to these Google reviews. And I feel like as I look at them and as I learn the backside of it, I feel like what I'm seeing and getting, because I know from how each side works, that Google, good or bad, is a little more genuine for me. And I don't know if that's with your experience.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of Yelp as far as how they have their systems in place. I do think it's a powerful source because people are there.
Yeah.
And that can't be undermined because whenever somebody's there, it's like, oh, I don't like this teacher. Well, they're still going to grade you. Yeah. So you have to work with the teacher, so regardless of whether you like them or not.
You got to play that game. So yeah, so I guess that's the other branch of it, kind of if we were drawing in an infogram here. So.
Wow. I love it.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It is a lot, but it brings me to my second point almost perfectly, is that I think a lot of people listening to this would be like, that's wonderful, that's nice, it's good that he does that. They may have the finances, but they're like, I don't have the staff, I don't have the team like you do to implement what you're doing. Yeah. You have integrated your staff, and I've seen a few businesses recently do this very, very well, where they integrate their staff into their whole holistic communications and marketing strategy. It's the whole team has expectations, and it's from day one. It's not oh, we're going to drop this on you now. It's from the day they were hired. They say, do you have this expertise? And is that how it happened for you, or did you develop it?
I think maybe partly both ways. The culture at our offices, like I said, comes from one that is very customer service focused. So there are things that were always like for the best of the practice. The small systems that we put in place, like to let people know that we're here on this place to be able to get a citation, for example, or they can get more information here. Or for example, one of the big things that we're moving so that you don't have to pick up contacts at our office. We're done. We've done our transaction. We've purchased everything. You made a decision, let's say on Amazon, to click to buy. You don't need to go to a store anymore. Right. You don't need to come back to the office to pick that up. We're going to send it to you. Okay. So little things like that. So, but I guess to answer the question, it's a combination of both kind of the culture of the office plus the staff. And as we train them, we integrate things kind of as everyone plays a part. It's not just the doctors, because it can't be. And it's mostly the staff making those connections. So it's having those systems in place. And I guess to answer your questions, if you couldn't do all the other things, like if it was just the staff and a doctor, let's say we scale down to just the size of this office, which is 2 staff and 1 doctor on most days, that the staff need to be educated on what the mission or the feel of the office is, the culture I call it, and what we're trying to relay. And what that feel is, so when a patient comes in, and they leave, they're like, oh, this is the feel of that office. They're high technology. They're high end on fashion. I can get something that I can see that I saw online, and they're able to be communicated and ask questions. You call, the number can be reached, you can text the doctor and be like, hey, my eye's not feeling so good, and they'll get back to you. Yeah. So I think those are the 3 or 4 things that we kind of, as we moved to this office in particular, and I think relaying that idea to your staff of what a doctor, let's say, and a business owner has in their head to their employees or their staff is important. And on a small scale, without the other systems, your system is here, that they understand what your mission and view is. And if they can understand that and relay that to your patients or your customers, then I think that's where that win can be.
That's really good. Have you had difficulties with any staff trying to implement this, or have you just been, in a very fortunate position that everybody is always on board with?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the personality of the staff. And we all come across challenges, but I think for me, it's about sitting down with them and saying, what do you feel won't work about this program or this thing? A lot of times, secret may be, I will ask a staff, like, what do you think about this, with some idea of kind of what I want it to kind of be formed. And so I have them come up with a little bit of the idea of like, what if we tried this, So if they're all listening, this is what Dr. Flores does when he asks you a question. But I think to some extent, involving everybody is important. Yes. And coming up with an idea like, oh yeah, like I think that could work. Like, what if we did this too? And a lot of times, a lot of things will come out of that. Opening a conversation where they can be part of what the office or what the place is important, because it is part of what they do. And if they're working full-hour shifts, that's 40 hours of their life that they're there with you, and all the time that you guys are all together. Yeah. So it is family.
And then creating a hostile environment of, you have to do this whether you like it or not. And
we try to, that's tough. Yeah. That is tough. And I've seen that in other places. It's kind of almost like, this my way, or it's hard. Because then there's a lot of like back talk. There's a lot of like behind talk, and that can be very toxic for both staff, doctors, employees, everyone, kind of around the board. It can be very challenging.
So other than helping them be involved with it and be part of the team, what other strategies have you seen in that regards for that? So, well, let's talk about the toxicity. What have some strategies been other than involving the staff? Have you seen reduce that toxicity and create a healthy working environment for that kind of communication?
Yeah, and so one thing that we do, and that I always recommend if doctors or business owners are having trouble like connecting with their staff, is having meetings. There's a couple different levels of meetings that I feel that are really useful. Our office manager, I put in a couple systems to be able to have our monthly meeting, which they already had, but I helped kind of put a form to it. Like review of the last time we had a meeting, things that we want to talk about this time, and then action items for what we're going to do. Kind of real simple, boom, boom, boom. And monthly we have that. We teleconference in, all the staff is talking and everybody's there. That's kind of on the big scale, right? Everyone's on the same page. They all get to chat. As much as we can, we bring all the staff together, and they get to chat and talk and hang out. On the next level down, we need to make sure like on a weekly basis that people have what they need to do their job. Like, Josiah, what do you have on your plate today? What's going on this week that's you're working on? I'm working on XYZ. Do you have everything that you need, or is there anything that we could help you with tool-wise that can help you complete that task? Okay, you need to be connected. Someone at the other office can help us get connected to that person. Let's do that. Let me connect you to that person, and let's see if we can get you, that resource. And just checking in. And that's like the weekly check-in, like Monday, like quick, what do we do? Quick huddle, and we go from there. Some people do it daily. That's a lot of work. But I mean, I'm thinking at least monthly minimum. Like you got to let people know, because that sets that culture, right? That monthly, and then if you can step in weekly to be able to make sure that people have what they need. That's a big question for me. Do you have what you need to do at your job? What you need to do or what your challenges are.
Yeah. No, that's really good.
Yeah.
So outside of the internal communications from your own staff, how have you used any marketing or advertising strategies? I know you talked about working with the other agency for external communication, but where have you seen the success of bringing in new patients? So
on the doctor side, I feel like us putting our faces into the community has been really useful. I've been the lead at the Upland side. Both of our other two doctors actually are born and raised in Upland. One still lives here, and we all live locally, so we do see patients around. So the face of the practice is really useful for answering questions, asking people kind of, what can I do for you? Whether it be a small business or just a personal thing, like, what can I do for you? Is there anything, like, you have any questions, or is there anything that I can help you with? Oh, blah, 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 this and that. It's like, this is what I can do to help. So I think the face of the practices, like the three of us, is really big on that. That's a marketing piece that I feel like that we use.
That's good. Do you do any other forms of marketing or advertising?
We do. I'm trying to think of other. We do co-management, or we work with other partners. Let's say, for example, if a patient wants LASIK, if a patient needs cataract surgery. So we work with our colleagues, ophthalmologists, medical doctors, to be able to connect with them. But that's like a doctor-to-doctor connection.
Right.
And that's very useful, because if people need services that we can't provide, we can make sure that they get to a quality care provider. And then vice versa, if somebody walks into, let's say, a LASIK center and says, oh, I don't have an optometrist that I go to all the time, but I live in Upland, they're like, oh, we've got a great partner that you can use. And so that kind of works really well. We work with San Antonio closely, with Pacific Eye. These are all places that are close by, that we do face-to-face with, to make sure that they know that we're here. And I think those are just like small things, because those can get lost, like end of the day, you just want to go home. I've got a 7-year-old family at home, and but carving out a little bit of time for communication and a little face-to-face is always worth it.
Yeah, I agree with that. You were just talking about it, and now I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I think that community engagement, being in the community, being that face, has always been like a staple. Yeah. A lot of people always talk to me and they say, what's the best form of advertising? And I said, referrals.
Yes.
And they're like, that's not marketing or advertising. I was like, it absolutely is. I think that personal connection. Everybody has moved towards the digital age, and people want that. What advertising do I have to put out there that I don't have to physically go out and get any patients? They'll all just come to my door and show up and call and everything like that. And I'm like, it doesn't quite work like that. It's a more holistic approach.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's almost a throwback to just how it's been done. Like before ads, before that, what did you do? You did quality care like all my predecessors, so that when someone's sister, brother, neighbor, friend needed something, they would come for whatever it may be. And I guess going back to kind of what you need to think of what you offer that maybe another place won't, right? So on the surface, you can come, get an eye exam and get glasses, right? Deeper than that, we do, a full comprehensive health check. We check for things like glaucoma, diabetes, high blood pressure, macular degeneration. These are health things that we work with our partners in ophthalmology or your primary care doctor to kind of follow. Let's say you have a problem like dry eye. We have a part of the clinic that will help you with just dry eye issues and things like that. Let's say you have very severe issues and you can't wear contact lenses or some sort of disease that this doesn't allow you to do that. We have a part of the clinic that allows you to get fitted with a special contact lens that will do that. So these small specialty niches are what we are finding in our kind of world of optometry to set you apart from just getting a pair of glasses, getting an exam and a pair of glasses for $50, let's say. One of those, I mean, we've all seen those ads. Those are ads that are out there, right? And we've seen them. You could get an exam online, right? With your iPhone, doing this and that, but you may get a prescription close, but will you get a quality prescription? And will you get everything else checked to make sure everything's okay?
Yeah.
And will you get the latest technology, let's say in contact lenses, to be able, say if you're over 40, to be able to see up close and far away? And do those sort of things. We have a part of clinic that does that. So specialization within your clinic, within your doctors, I think is essentially what's going to get you the referrals. Going back to that, people are like, I got this thing. I'm at the hospital. I don't have to wear reading glasses. I could see the computer screen. You're like, where did you go? Oh, down the street. We're like, I gotta go down the street because I've never done that.
Yeah, whenever I go to a business or a medical place, I always kind of try to sit down and see how their experience was. And my wife talked about, because she used your services, and
That's right.
that was one of the first things I was like, oh, okay. I like how his system. Okay, good.
That's funny.
But it's just something that I think it's weird how that old school mentality actually is a new advertising portion where it's like, no, they take care of me, they talk to me, they know my name, that small town vibe, right? But that's the old school, but it's now integrating with technology. If you can combine those two strategies together and make it really personalized and patient-centered, which is a big initiative in California, patient-centered care, you can get patients.
Yeah. I remember shopping for shoes with her. For you, actually.
Oh, for me?
You're like, what shoes could I get my husband to wear? And I'm like,
no
let
way.
me show you. What do you think of this? She's like, oh, I like that. We were.
That's
obviously
hilarious.
Hasn't worked because I haven't seen you in any of the shoes that we've been thinking about.
What were they?
No, it was just more natural shoes.
She has showed me. I did actually buy some Zero shoes.
Nice.
I forget the name of the brand. But there's some Zero sandals actually.
Nice. Very
but
nice.
I don't wear them to business events, so you wouldn't see me in
That's
them.
so funny.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, these are those connections, that you make with people, and you have these conversations, and outside of just which is better, one or two, and then I guess above that, because we do have more than just the three of us, because there's an investment that you have as an owner, right?
Yes.
Of a business. So you're always gonna, you want that referral, but it's also could you put that onto an associate to have that same sort of ownership? And so giving them the tools and enough time. So a lot of times you'll have an associate that may have anywhere from, what's the average, 7 to 12 minutes with the patient. Give them this huge slot of 20 to 30 minutes, the support of the staff to get all the tests done, so you can sit there and you could really dig in with the patient of what's other than just this vision thing up close and far away, what else is going on that I can help you with? And giving them those tools and the resources, new grad, old grad, whatever, be like, oh wow, I've got the time to take care of someone now. Yeah. And so that's one thing. So we've always kept that slot. It's a big 30-minute slot. So.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Is there any other advice you'd like to share to other medical professionals?
Yeah, so I think in this field, obviously, we are fortunate to have kind of this practice that's, it's got lots of history. It's got to a place where we're able to run it kind of with a lot of moving pieces. But I think kind of look inside to yourself Because a lot of times we get stuck because in the world of medical or optometry specifically, we're very poor, like I want to say business people, running businesses, but we're essentially forced to run a business because we have a sellable item. We have an appliance that we sell. We are not, unless you're in a situation where you just do exams and then the prescriptions go out, which there are some situations like that, you're essentially running a business, you have employees, so you need to look within yourself to make sure that you're taking care of that business side of things. You can be a great optometrist and a poor business person and not make a good business out of it. Then you need to look for other opportunities. But if you're looking to excel, then you need to start, kind of close to home, so with your employees and yourself.
So that actually brings up a great point. How did you find your peers? Were they already part of the practice, or did you know people, or did you recruit? How that strategy work for you?
So I wasn't in this practice as of let's say 3 years ago. I was working with one of the partners at his second practice for some time and kind of consulting with him on how to maximize medical insurance billing and that sort of thing. And as they were making the thought to move or transition to acquire a second practice, they were obviously looking for another doctor as well. And that's how I got connected to them. Associates, we look for people who are, patient-minded. A lot of times it's where we feel like, could we offer them a space where they can be their best? The two associates we have are great, and I think I've worked with them for at least a decade, and I think we've just given them the opportunity to be able to be the best that they can, and they don't have any want to be partner. They just want to work. I've been working decades, and they just want to provide patient care, and we can provide a place for that. So that kind of combination.
That's wonderful. So if anybody is interested in visiting your practice, what's the best way to contact your organization?
Yeah. So you can go to fog2020.com, and that's the connection for appointments, doctor bios, and also citations, reviews, and you can get everything at fog2020.com.
That's 2020.
That's it. Get you seen 2020.
All right.
There you go.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you being on the show, sharing your insights and knowledge. I learned a little bit myself. So it was great having you on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
All right.